Welcome back to the shop, my friends. Steve here at SKS Props. This is part 2 in my Cadian armor build series. If you didn't check out part 1, it went all over the upper body, so the chest, the shoulders, and the forearm armor. This video is going to focus everything waist down. So we're going to work on the belt. We're going to make accessories for the belt, including some frag grenades and a functional pouch, as well as the armor for the waists, thighs, knees, and shins. Now for your build, you don't necessarily have to add all of these armor pieces, but a couple of my friends are making the Kasrkin shock troopers, and I wanted to make sure that these were available. Now if you are interested in making your own armor set, I did make a group over on Facebook, the Cadian Cosplay group at DragonCon, and you're welcome to join even if you're not going to DragonCon. What we're doing in there is sharing a bunch of our progress photos to inspire everyone else. All of the armor for the waist down is made out of my HD foam, which you can find over at Blick Art Materials. And because these videos are free, all of my templates are free. Every time you go through those links to pick up HD foam, it helps out me and it helps out the channel. Plus, you're getting amazing foam to craft with. So I want to show you what it takes to work on everything waist down on this Cadian. Let's go ahead and get started. Now when it comes to the belt, you've got a couple of different options. I'm going to show you how to put together this one, which is made out of parachute clips, tri-glides, and 2-inch nylon. Now for my costume, I decided to go with a leather holster belt. And it's specifically a holster belt because it's a little bit thicker overall in material. And that's because I'm going to have several different accessories on it. So I've got the frag grenades, a custom pouch, belt buckle, and I'm definitely putting canteen on the back because we're going to be down in Atlanta and it gets a little hot. Now with this belt, I got mine off of eBay and I will have a link down below, but if you'd like to go with a little bit cheaper route, I'm going to show you how to put this one together. Like I had mentioned, we're going to be using some 2-inch nylon as well as some parachute clips and tri-glides. The nylon is marked with chalk and cut to approximately 52 inches, but of course you can measure it out so that the belt fits you. The trick to making this belt adjustable is you feed one end through a tri-glide, then through one half of the parachute clip. The nylon will then go back through the tri-glide from the beginning, which is nice because it makes the belt adjustable, but it's not going to work itself free. When it comes to pouches on costumes, I love having them functional. This one specifically I designed for my iPhone, and it's made out of 4mm foam. You could also use these templates to create one out of leather as well. Now I made this to fit my phone, but you of course could change the size for your needs. We're going to start by taking part A and marking it out on some 4mm foam. Making sure to note all of the lines because that's what's going to help this foam bend. I also go ahead and mark out part B. I'm going to slice on all these lines about halfway through the foam with a well-sharpened hobby blade. This will open the foam up, and now I'm going to take my rotary tool and create a V channel on this groove. I also take this time to round over the edges and do a little heat treatment on the foam so it's easier to manipulate. Before I glue the whole pouch together, I want to give it a leather texture, so I'm going to do the tinfoil technique. This consists of lightly heating up the foam and then pressing in some crumpled up tinfoil to give it an embossed look. Now notice that I'm covering the section that I just completed with some poster board because heat will reactivate the foam and make it bounce back. That's going to erase all those details, which also means that if you make some marks that you don't like, you can easily reheat the foam and then press it again. To assemble this pouch, I'm going to start by gluing the side pieces that say front to the bottom piece that says front. And notice that I do have some 1, 2, 3 blocks on the interior of the pouch to keep it square. Part B is going to cover this gap in the front and then wrap around to the back side. Just like the side pieces, I mark placement of this with a pencil, and then use a little more Bob Smith super glue to adhere this into place. Now you of course could have this part B piece be longer and go all the way up the back, and utilize that as your belt loop. But I thought for reinforcement it'd be better for the belt to go inside of the pouch, so I cut out 2 back slots on my template and checked the belt for fit. Once I determined these were okay, I marked placement on the back of the pouch with the pencil. At this point I was thinking about it and I thought some additional reinforcement might be good on the interior. So I used part C to cut a 2mm square and then glued that on the inside. Adding part C and cutting these notches would probably be easier to do before the pouch is assembled. But I build all this stuff as I go and then hope to enlighten you when you watch the video. To open up these slots, I'm going to use a Forstner bit at either end to create perfect circles. Then I could use my hobby blade just to connect those circles and remove the foam. Because I didn't have anything on the interior to brace it, my cut wasn't as clean as I was hoping for, so I used a heat tool and a spatula to make it nice and smooth. To help close the flap on this pouch, I'm going to be using some rare earth magnets, so I find a bit that's slightly smaller than the magnet I intend to use. By attaching the other magnet and then pressing firmly, it makes sure that I have the other magnet positioned exactly where I want it. Now because I plan on drilling this one a little bit deeper, I did add some reinforcement foam on the inside. And make sure to check your magnetic pull so that you're gluing down the correct side. To give it a little Cadian flair, I printed off another Aquila, this one quite a bit smaller, but it's the same file that I used on the chest. Now of course the frag grenades are iconic on these guys, and I've got two different ways for you to put them together. I did do some STL files, and you can download these and print them out if you have a printer at home, but I also made some free foam templates so you can fabricate these if you've got some foam in your workshop. The ones that I'm making are specifically from Space Marine 2, and they do not have a tongue on them, so I designed a belt loop on the back so they can clip onto your belt and look like they're just hanging there. Pull up your grenade template, and we're going to need part A, which is going to be traced and cut out of some 10mm foam. I add a decent amount of heat to this piece because we're looking for it to round over to create a cylinder. And because this seam is going to have quite a bit of pull on it, we're going to be using some weldwood contact cement. Part B is going to make up a reinforcement circle that's going to go on the interior of this piece. You're going to need 3 of them, and they're going to be cut out of some 10mm foam. One is going to be glued in the middle, and the other 2 are going to be glued at the top and the bottom. Because they're a little tricky to get into place, I'm using super glue instead of contact cement for this application. For the bottom of our grenade, we're going to be using part C, and this is going to be cut out of some 10mm foam. And if you notice, I did add a slight angle to this piece. Part D is going to go on top, and it's going to use the same template, but we're going to be cutting it out of 4mm foam. The cut around this piece also has a slight angle. I'm going to use part E to create the raised details along the outside. If you look on the template, I do have approximate placement for spacing with these, and if you follow this guide, it'll leave a small gap in the back for a belt loop. Part F is going to make up that belt loop, and the pieces are cut out of some 10mm foam. After they've been glued together, they can then be attached to the back side of the grenade where I'd left a small gap. And here you can see I leave just enough space for a 2-inch belt to be threaded through. Now I can work on the details on the top. Part G is going to be traced and cut out of some 4mm foam. To create the stem, I used a 15mm round dowel cut to about 3/4 of an inch. But if you don't have a dowel, you could also stack some foam to get the desired look. To create the pull pin, I start by inserting a bamboo skewer and then removing excess material. To create the ring for the grenade, I cut off a small bit of 1-inch PVC pipe. To attach the ring to the pin, a small strip of 2mm foam was glued to the underside. Then it could wrap around the ring and be glued on top. And to make sure that the ring doesn't accidentally pull away at a con, I went ahead and glued it to the top of the grenade. I'm actually having a lot of fun creating these elements in both traditional foam and in 3D. I know not everybody has the artistic ability to work with their hands, and I know that some other people don't have the money for 3D printers. So this is just the best of both worlds. If you've got a printer at home or a friend that has one, my buddy Zach in the Cadian Cosplay group designed some custom buckles for us, and I'll have links to these STLs down in the description. Zach designed the buckle where it's printed separate, and then the brackets that you use are glued into place. After the brackets have been sanded and scribed, I can then glue them to the back side. Now the actual buckle for my belt will be in the back and covered by the canteen, so I can put this false buckle in the front and make it fit flush by using some Velcro. That way, if I ever want to replace it with another one, or if I have some damage to it, I can easily swap it out. My BDUs did come in, and for our costume, I think these work great. They're not too heavy because, again, we're going to be in Atlanta. It's going to be hot. Now, if you want to check these out, these are on Amazon. I'll have a link for these down below. Now it's time to create the leg armor for the thighs, knees, and shins. Utilizing the thigh template, I'm going to trace part A onto some 10mm foam. Now, a lot of these pieces will have angles to get the correct curve, and that's going to start here with part B, which will have a 25-degree angle back to get the correct shape. These angles can be created by hand, using a bandsaw, a scroll saw, or the bevel from my friend at Rocket Props. Because the surface area is a little bit different on these, I'm going to be using weldwood contact cement. I start by laying the piece flat and then butting up the two part B sections on either side. I'll then flip this piece over and then firmly press the angled side in. Another thing you can do is round over this middle section for it to better conform to your thigh, which is probably what I'm going to do if I end up using these. I'll put a small strip of 2mm foam on the back side while it's curved to keep the shape. The knee armor will be made up of parts C and D. All the interior cuts where these pieces meet need to be at a 30-degree angle. And don't forget to mark placement for the V-cut on the back side. Just like I had done with the pouch, I slice about halfway through the foam to create a groove. I'll then use my rotary tool to remove material to create the V. This is going to give a seamless angle to the front and allow it to meet up with part D on the side. I'm using more contact cement for the adhesive on this part of the project. And just like before, I'm lining up the front first and then firmly pressing the back side together. And if your seams on the front aren't perfect, you can clean them up later on with a smooth sanding drum on your rotary tool. In fact, if you have not watched how I make my own custom sanding drums, I highly recommend to check out that video. The shin armor for this build is going to be made up of parts E and F. These pieces will also be traced and cut out of some 10mm foam, and do note that they do have angles on the interior cuts. And if you're noticing between these pieces, the different angles will determine how aggressive it wraps around your body. But another thing you can do is do a rough cut by hand and then clean that angle up using your rotary tool or a belt sander. The straps for all of these pieces will be attached after battle damage and paint. Some of the soldiers also have waist armor on the front and sides. The waist front is made up of parts G and H. Just like the other sections for this build, these are going to be traced and cut out of some 10mm foam. The angles on these cuts though are not near as severe because this piece is going right in front. And like I had mentioned earlier, you don't have to add all of these pieces. In fact, I'm not going to be adding the waist ones to my build because I'm going to have my jacket out and I want those flaps in the front fully visible. The waist armor side sections are going to be made up of parts I and J, and will also be traced and cut out of some 10mm foam. The angles on this piece are a little more dramatic to help it wrap around your body. And when attaching any of the waist pieces to your cosplay, in the game they have straps on parts H and J. They have straps on these pieces at the top that loop around your belt and then attach to the back side. And speaking of straps, I know that I'd used the black ones as an example in the last video for the chest. But after some deliberation, I think I'm going to swap mine out for brown cotton on my build. The brown is a little more hard to come by than the black, so I'd understand if you'd want to keep it simple. But I'm trying to get a little more accurate to how it looks in the game. If you've been following along with my Instagram, you'll see that I've been working on these, a full-scale las gun as well as a las pistol. The STL files for these are currently available, and I'll link them down below. In a future video, I will also have free foam templates, and I'll show you how to craft these the old-fashioned way. So you all can see what it takes to make some accessories and some waist-down armor for this Cadian. And if you are building any of my builds or utilizing some HD foam, be sure to tag me at SKSProps on Twitter and Instagram because I love seeing your creations. Until next time, build your best with the best. HD foam.